Is it making my tan look darker?
He said you were orange on telly.
Yeah, I'd faked tanned and now...
I mean, we are live on Facebook now, so... Well, apparently.
Yeah. I got told, there was a comment on Twitter, wasn't there?
That wasn't me.
No.
I wouldn't dare say anything publicly.
It was when?
I just say it privately.
When was it? It wasn't last week. A couple of weekends ago, maybe, when we were playing... When were we last... Oh, the semi-final. Somebody said...
Oh, did I say it?
No, it was some guy just put... They should comment... stop concentrating so much on this fake tan. And I was like...
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
Hold up.
Oh, was that someone replying to me?
Look good, play good. No, it wasn't. It was independent. It was on my post.
Oh,
Somebody decided to comment. I was like... There's a lot of time and effort that goes into our tanning. Unashamedly. But this is au natural.
You're joining us live on YouTube where you just missed... I've just turned the microphone on now. You just missed important... So you're not orange, are you? Just to tell the people.
This is natural. This is the weekend's work. This is PE teacher vibes from last week. It's tough, isn't it?
Actually, I think I liked my PE teachers. They were all right. It was...
Just never had any time.
English teachers didn't get on with.
I'm PE and maths, aren't I? So I'm going to upset someone.
What is it with... And we'll start the rugby league bit in a bit. What is it with... Why was it... At our school we had PE and maths teachers. They were like the...
It's not PE and geography.
Geography teachers at our school were the coolest. They were always the ones in the pub.
Yeah. Oh.
Wearing check.
That's me.
Yeah.
I mean...
No, you were in the hay.
I was in the hay. Having a right time.
Eating ice cream.
Mm-hmm. Pistachio and almond.
I got an award for trying in PE, which I think tells you my level of...
Oh, that's cute. What can we give him?
Got to give everybody something.
Yeah. Trying.
Yeah.
I'm trying, that's true. Welcome to 4020 Live. If you're watching on YouTube, we've got graphics. Look, they're on the screen and everything. They better be working now. If you're watching on Facebook, tough. It's like watching in standard definition. YouTube's high def. Join us on there. It's the future. Danika Priim is here.
Hi.
Slumming it with us. Now you're TV star. You've been on proper BBC television.
I know where my roots are. I know where I started.
Yes, it should say...
I'm back home now.
Like an international selected and it goes, Wigan St Pat's. It should say, 4020 Live.
Yeah, I know where I began.
Yeah.
I know where I began. Always come back home, don't they?
How was it on actual telly with proper cameras and running orders and, professionals?
Well, when I arrived in the morning at 9 a.m. and then got into our Winnebago, actually, with our refreshments, bacon butties and coffees and makeup artists and...
Just like it.
When we did the Challenge Cup final in 2018, did we have a Winnebago makeup artists?
I think we had a meal deal from Tesco's across the road.
Stand-up railway, they got thrown out of the stadium, that was good. Did you nearly get thrown out of the stadium?
Oh, I'm low-key, I was low-key. There was potential for it. I kept pretty low-key.
You enjoyed it?
I loved it, yeah, it was really good. It's nice, isn't it? I think, because me and Andy did it, it was more the sense of, you got to an age where you probably know retirement when you're not bothered who wins, you're not bothered whether you're down there or not, you're just bothered about the occasion, and we were both quite emotional about the occasion and the size of it. Which is a big key sign, isn't it, about my age and where I'm at in my career. I would have loved to have been down there lifting it, but to be able to take it in as a neutral was just wicked. It was awesome, and Saints have been the better team, so well done to them.
They're quite good, aren't they? No,
they're ridiculous, aren't they? Ridiculous. Really good. Like, they did their analysis, they outplayed us, they got really strong. The halves phase no longer playing, but Beth and Faye Jodie can jump in. They got centres Carrie and Amy, Rudgy in the back row. It's just, an abundance of talent.
But your player of the match, you haven't even mentioned.
Rudgy.
Rebecca.
Oh, well, no. So we gave it to Emily Rudge, but then Rebecca Rotherham was... I was deciding between Rebecca Rotherham and Emily Rudge. But I think my reason for Rebecca was because of her improvement. So 2018, 2019, she was playing for Saints. I bear in mind she plays fullback, which is Jodie Cunningham's international role. So, I reckon that's pressure, isn't it? It's like somebody now coming and stepping in for Caitlin Beavers. It's pressure. And I think she looked nervous when we played 18-19, but this season so far, She's so confident with the ball. She's set up a load of tries. She's getting
Got
bashed.
smashed.
Yeah, she's tiny. She's the same size as my thigh. She's literally the same size as my thigh. And she's getting smashed left, right and centre and getting back up again. Yeah, so hers was more of a... I think I was more impressed by her improvement rather than her actual... But Emily Rudge is one of those workhorses that never gets the recognition because she's so consistent and she doesn't stand out, if that makes sense. So every game she plays to her fullest. So she's never like a... She might get a try or a good break, but every game she plays like that.
Just say she's like James Roby, and then all the people out there
Yeah.
will take that as... Like, Danika Priim says Emily Rudge is the James Roby of women's
She's better.
rugby league.
Minimum 8 out of 10.
Yeah, and then they'll put that as the headline on the thing.
That's, I mean, if you bang average 8 out of 10 over your skill set versus having 5 6s and then the odd 9 or 10 out of 10, you want a high average, don't you, rather than...
But then you don't get the accolades
I mean, yeah, exactly,
because it becomes the norm.
Yeah.
So now's a good time to ask. We go from the ridiculous high, not ridiculous because it wasn't merited, but suddenly the game has
We're live on BBC Two.
gone stratospheric
Yeah.
very quickly. It's not only is it live on BBC Two, but it's a great
I think it
game,
was over 300,000 viewers.
great occasion,
Mm-hmm.
great summarising team.
More than we've got, slightly.
Just the women's game on a pedestal, where
Yes.
it needs to be, leading up to an international soon against Wales, then a World Cup. We're all getting excited. This is the part of the sport that is going to carry the men's game. Our saviour.
Mm-hmm.
And then this week, we have 2 games in a supposedly called Super League, postponed because a doctor is not available. And we'd seen on Saturday night how important having a doctor is available, and let's not diminish why the medical people are the first ones that we should be engaging at every game. What does that say about elite status if you can't run 2 of your games through I might not even say an error, but the inability to get the basics right?
Yeah, so I've got a double-edged sword here. There's 2. So, first of all, had Saturday night not happened, and this would have happened, I think there would have been a lot more anger or disappointment than there has been. And it is. It's kind of one of those things where, as much as I want to be supportive of how far the women's game's gone, how much support we do get in general, you know, the BBC have been great. There's talks of Sky maybe coming and doing stuff like this. All of the above. And then we can't play those big games. We can't play the Sky games. We can't play the BBC games or put on a spectacle for those platforms unless we play the basic week in, week out games. So, I don't know. You build from the bottom, don't you? We've had these fixture lists for a long time. So, in terms of... There was a slight change in venue because we couldn't play at Wheatwood. So they had to change venues and find a central venue. But yeah, they've been in. It's just, I'm trying to be really positive about it.
So when were you first informed that your game that you were preparing for?
10:25 on Sunday morning.
I mean, you could have told me, because I haven't bought me... You know,
But the thing is, it's a bigger picture than that. So it's like, we are not professionals. We don't do this for a job. So we all work. We all, students, whatever else. But generally, good prep for a game. You keep out of the sun. You keep away from the parties and the alcohol and whatever else.
Yeah.
And you rehydrate and prepare properly. Your game's on the Sunday, so you don't book anywhere to go watch the England football. You don't book anything in for the Sunday because you've got a game on and that's your focus. So you spend 48 hours. Mine really is from when I finish school on Friday at 3-4 o'clock up until the end of the game on a Sunday. That's my prep time. And, you know, maybe this week I was more fortunate because I knew I wasn't going to be playing. That I did spend Saturday out in the sun and enjoyed Ilkley Food Festival, which was wonderful. But I know a lot, like I spoke to Shona Hoyle, who plays for Castleford. Obviously, England International, World Cup prospect. She didn't do anything with her weekend. She's got a son. You know, she's got a young son, and she didn't do anything with it. She just stayed hydrated, stayed out the sun, did everything. And that's the frustration about it. Because we're not paid to do it.
Yeah, because we've said before, you didn't like the word sacrifice, but to everyone out there, that is a sacrifice.
Yeah,
You're giving up a Saturday afternoon.
When stuff like this happens, it is because you think the one thing that the RFL could do was have these things in place. However, that me trying to be nice towards it, we have had a COVID outbreak again, and we have one of the doctors is one of the Leeds doctors that I've seen on the side of the pitch. So, is that therefore the problem of not being able to field the doctor? Have they had the doctors in place? I think I've heard on the grapevine that Wakefield have asked midweek if they could provide a doctor.
You're looking at me like I know.
No, I'm just saying I don't know where that's come from in terms of if that's the truth or not. So therefore, I don't want to say that's what has happened. But I've heard on the grapevine that Wakefield have asked midweek if they could provide a doctor.
But when we were having the big debate last week and the week before about elite academies and what constitutes elite and minimum standards, surely we cannot be calling Super League games off for want of a doctor.
Yeah, it's not just the doctor, is it, that they've got to have their pitch side training.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a really great thread on Twitter that I can't remember who liked it or retweeted it or something, but he was a doctor in the game, and he said,
From
one,
Castleford, yeah.
There's a shortage of doctors. Two, they've employed a physio for the academy, but he can't get his pitch side trauma training until October, which means he can't do a game yet. So there's the courses. So there's lots of
But there's a difference between a community club and a Super League.
Mm.
There's a lot asked of first aiders who were pitch side at all community games. They can't go ahead without first aids, and each club has a responsibility to provide lists of their first aids and put them on courses.
Yeah,
we're talking about the impact that the women's game has had on the sport, the political capital that's been used, the great work that people like Tom Brindle have done to bring it to the... Now, how must he have felt when he realised that two of the games couldn't go ahead?
having already had one cancelled because of COVID.
For something as preventable as not being able to find a doctor.
For me,
because it sounds as though, again, they didn't find out till maybe 10 o'clock on Sunday morning.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? So for me, I think, and genuinely it might just be the stage of my career or the fact I'm not looking for an England shirt this year, but I was frustrated because it's just annoying. It's just really annoying that we have to waste a weekend, and that's essentially what it was.
Yeah.
But there are girls that are needing to, in 10 days' time, they're going to run out in an England shirt against Wales. Now, whether you think that will be an easy game or it should be a nice training game or whatever you think it is, at the end of the day, England will be playing, and that is all you need to say, isn't it?
On television?
On Sky Sports, on a Friday night, as a double header with the men's All-Stars, that the occasion is huge again, and they need the best prep. So now some of them, because everyone has a bye week, it's going to be 2 weeks for some of them, and then their next game is going to be in an England shirt.
Well, there might be 3 weeks for them because not everybody played in the cup final either.
Well, exactly. It's just well, and then the week before, we didn't play. So if we don't play on Sunday, for the likes of Caitlin, Beavers, and Chloe and Amy Johnson, you go in a ridiculous amount of time without play, and then you can train as much as you want, and we hit each other in training. Don't get me wrong, we go full smash, but. Yeah, it's just really frustrating because we have developed so far, like you say, and I can wax lyrical about how great it is and how much we've come far, but then I'm like, is it basics, isn't it? Basics. It's basics. And what we have to do is now we have to just cancel the game. So our new physio, he works 40 hours in a private clinic. So he's working extra on a Tuesday, Thursday and a Sunday to be our physio. So it is an extra ask of people because it isn't a full-time post or it isn't, it's not a club post, but I am really angry about it.
And there is a real disconnect here because, sorry, I jumped in.
That's okay.
You mentioned it's a double header, so I think we should talk about the men's half of it. And there is some stuff we need to praise this week. So all of those thinking it's gone in a negative direction already. England's men will be playing the Combined Nations All-Stars at the same time that 3 Super League games have now been scheduled. So there's 2 things here. Well, 3 probably. One is the crowd is now already diminished.
Yeah.
Because 6 Super League teams are playing, and you would think a fair proportion of the supporters of those 6 Super League teams will be supporting their club that night, particularly those who are season ticket holders of each of the home clubs, where they haven't had their value for money for all the reasons.
And they don't have to pay any extra to go.
So you're Sky and you're going, we're putting on this international, why are there only 3,000 people in the ground at Warrington? And the backdrop's awful and it doesn't sound great, it doesn't look great. And you think, well, that's because there's 12,000 people who have been disenfranchised and can't be there. So what does that say about A, the dysfunction of the sport as a whole, and B, how much we're valuing this international experience? The other thing is, how many clubs are now going to release players? Because I know that that those players can't play necessarily for their clubs if they're not playing an international game. But you look at, for example, and I know you've posed the question on social media, who should play for the All-Stars? Well, 2 for me who would be front and centre would be Chris Satay and Liggy Sow from Hull, who I think have been absolutely outstanding this year. Just the sort of test that you would want the England pack to have. Well, if you're Brett Hodgson and you're down to already 20 people...
Because no one's got any players left, because they're not allowed to.
Do you
make
really
changes
want
to
to be
squads.
saying, we want to release those 2 players who are in banging form, very important for what we do, build a lot around them, for a game that actually, for us, is meaningless?
Yeah.
Why is this not a standalone weekend of international rugby league?
Well, it is for the women. Well, this is it, isn't it? I think we're going to use that excuse of COVID forever and ever, aren't we, in a day? And Super League, because it's tight, isn't it, for turnarounds now? Games are getting cancelled because of COVID again. And there are questions as to whether these can be replayed or will be replayed. So there's a
well, that's why we went for percentages. We knew that was going to... See, again, I think hindsight is an easy thing to throw at people. But actually, once you bring in a percentage calculation, you're almost acknowledging that there are going to be times in the season where games cannot be played.
Yeah.
Therefore, the other thing to do while you're doing that is put a couple of weekends in the season to catch up on the games that you knew can't be played. What we're trying to do is cram all the games in, and the cancelled games, and the international games, and a World Cup. And it's like, what are we actually trying to achieve with this? It's so self-defeating. And it just shows that the sport at administrative level is totally dysfunctional at the moment.
It's basic communication, isn't it? It's basic communication. And that's...
There's also some people who bought tickets for the international who have now found that their clubs are playing on that night and are resentful of the fact that they bought a ticket for a game that they now don't want to see. And again, we don't want that in the build-up to the World Cup.
They don't want to go to Warrington.
I am really digging deep to be positive tonight. It might not come across.
We've got a couple of things you can be really positive.
I'll show you something positive. Oh, this is not for the viewers on Facebook. You won't see this, but the kit's nice, isn't it? The All-Stars kit.
Oh, the kit's fantastic.
Yeah, the kit's lovely.
Yeah.
The kit's really nice.
And it's for a great cause. £10 of the shirt is going to Mossy Massoy Foundation, which is brilliant. We do some things really well, and there are some positives. And absolutely no doubt one of them was Jason Gary. Because in any sport...
What a guy.
What a story.
Yeah, and it's amazing, isn't it? Because as a teacher as well, all you do is you hype up your kids, and if you see something good in a kid, all you want to do is support that. And the whole school, like, let's be fair, Queen Ethelburgers is not synonymous with rugby league, is it either?
It's not Outward Grange School.
It's not.
No, exactly, which is also then opening. But what a kid! Like he literally touched the ball for the first time.
Well, first of all,
himself.
But I mean, he's 17 and he's not in the captain's role.
Yeah,
he turns up.
Gets a phone call in the middle of maths or something, doesn't he?
To help out, and all of a sudden he's playing. Not only is he playing, but he scores with his first touch. Not only does he score with his first touch, but the try that he scores is absolute quality. He's just skinned Jay Connor.
I know, and of all people, like of all the players to skin in your, do you know the thought about it? But do you not think that's an age thing? The sheer confidence.
It could have gone one or two ways. Yeah. His nerves, he could have dropped the ball, or the confidence, he doesn't realise who he's running against. He just does what comes naturally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But his coach is then out of his chair, and his teammates are hugging him, and then there's that beautiful clip on
Going back
social
into
media
school.
on the Friday morning when he goes in and all of his teammates are making a huge fuss.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever sport you follow, that is a wonderful story.
Yeah.
We can create moments like that. So it's not all, let's just, have a go at those who organise a sport for the words piss up in brewery.
Yeah.
We get moments like that.
Yeah, there were so many moments like that, and it's hard, isn't it? Because my thing is the women's game. But in the women's game, we've got so many like little rare things like that, and it's not quite the same as it's not a Thursday night or a Friday night or whatever. But it is. Kid comes in, trains for a couple of weeks, makes Fran Goldthorpe, for instance. Caitlin Beavers was in the academy 2018. The first game of the season was against Bradford of the Super League. We were playing, Leeds Ranners' first ever official game. She gets called up from the academy because we've already suffered something, an injury. On she comes, and the rest is history. And I think it's a beautiful moment in the sense that to back the whole academy thing, and the importance of that and the idea of that not going ahead was just absolutely ludicrous, wasn't it? And
it's again so badly handled in terms of it doesn't look
it
like
just
leadership.
makes you wonder if the person or the people, and I've got to be careful because obviously I'm still pretty heavily involved, but do you watch the sport and do you read the stories? Because how many people have come through the academy, you look at the likes, just at Leeds, Alex Sutcliffe and Harry Newman and Jack Walker and Mikolai and, the list is Liam Sutcliffe, Ash Hanley, all of them. Jamie Jones Buchanan was in the academy. Rob and Kev all came through academy. And whether you stay at that club or you go off and you play at a different club, these kids have come through the academy status. When you're breeding your own, and you're like, Jason, what a kid, we haven't had to go to Australia, we haven't had to go to, the Pacific Islands. We've got some essentially homegrown talent here.
From Kipax.
Yeah. Who walks on a pitch at 17 years old. And I like to think it's his age, because I think it's not an arrogance thing. I think it's just an age thing of that, not blasé, but just maybe just being young and a bit naive. He's on the pitch. He's like, I've got a job to do, and he gets the ball past. He's like, oh well, I've got to go over that white line, and he's like, I've got to get past that person. And I like to think maybe it's because I'm a teacher, maybe it's because I've got this blinkered unicorn and sparkles kind of vision about young children. But I like to think that's where he's just like, that's my job, And then afterwards he's gone, oh, I've just done that. And it's been the penny drop moment afterwards, and the hype around him afterwards, and how the boys welcomed him back into school and everything like that. It was wicked. And yeah, if you think that the academy status doesn't work, I just think it's ridiculous, because it's just, the list is endless, isn't it?
But there was another issue that came out of that game that's equally as important. And again, you will be able to give us the perspective of the player, because we can talk as much as we like about the theoreticals. But Darryl Powell complained afterwards, with justification, that he'd lost a substitution because a 17-year-old kid had the start to his career of his dreams, because he wasn't in the original 21-man squad, because they had 3, I think, pull out at the captain's run. So Jason's coming in with his lunchbox and thinks he's going to be training with the academy, and suddenly he's been told, you've got your kit for the game tomorrow night.
Leave your homework, you've got to do this.
But they get penalised for that. And we're moving into a part of the season in the men's game where we're getting 3 games a week. We already have every single club talking about injuries, not knowing who they're going to be naming in a squad. COVID clearly is affecting teams, and could strike at any moment.
Yeah.
What on earth is the point of making that ruling when originally it was brought in to stop?
It was brought in for something
betting problems,
which is
not an issue anymore. Surely, when we need every player out there we can, it's going to get harder and harder to get teams to name 21 man or 18 women squads. How can you possibly penalise them?
Well, this is a it's just stupid, isn't it? But this is something that's been ongoing. But you take into account, like, we've changed the rules, we've changed the scrums or whatever, we've adapted things, all because of the pandemic, all because of COVID. And again, it's one of the things that I keep coming back to. It's like York, they women. I'm going to go back to the women again because that's what I know. They fielded Emma Hardy as their starting fullback at the final. Now, she'd not played one single cup tie, and therefore she shouldn't have been eligible to play. But because of COVID, those rules were null and void. Surely there's a similar thing going to, either through isolation, through, these guys might be professionals, but they also have families, they have kids at school, they have partners at work. So at some point, your squad, not only because of injury or because of whatever else, because of the pure pandemic, your squad is going to be depleted in parts, and therefore you don't know that until the day or the day before or whatever else. And I just think it's ridiculous. Like, you need to move with the times, and that's something that it's not even the times, is it? Because we're talking 12, 18, 6 months of let's just assess where we're at. Does
Tomorrow.
It really matter? And then you say, look, we're gonna stop this because you're all gonna sing off the same song sheet. This is no longer going to matter to you because we understand that it's quite difficult and there are injuries. But no, instead, what we're going to do is
You're going to penalise you.
Penalise you, and, that's your fault that all your players are injured.
The other thing, you mentioned changing in rules, and got to get your take on the ball steal. Because clearly, again, it seems as though something has been brought in that has tipped the game over an edge. It's like, we can't have scrums, understand that. Bringing in 6 again, okay, well, that's going to change the nature of the game because we don't have scrums. We'll go with that. And we're bringing a change to the ball stealing rule, and then we decide we've made a mistake, but we're not going to revert back to the ball stealing rule till next season. Surely, if we have made a mistake and we've identified over a period of 8 or 9 weeks that it's not working, and in combination with everything else we need to go back, why didn't we do it straight away? And then we have an incident in a game between Salford and Hull KR where a ball is stolen that doesn't materially affect the outcome of the game, but clearly has an influence on where that game was at the time. And you're going, and of course, why anyway.
But as a prop, so I've come from rugby union where ball stealing is allowed. You have rucks and mauls. But the one thing that I'm good at it's not many anymore, cracking on a bit, but as a prop, I don't have to worry about carrying the ball in, hitting the line really hard, taking the meters, taking the tackle, hitting the floor, getting a good play of the ball, and carrying on. But now, as an added extra, I've got to think, I've actually got to have that extra bit of effort, which I know as a prop doesn't sound like very much, but I have to have that extra effort to make sure that doesn't happen. And luckily in the women's game, it's happened once or twice. It's not really big, but if you've made a mistake, I don't think the players would care if somebody just rang up at the start of the week and just went, all the players, all the teams, we're taking it out. Your coach walks in, boys, girls, women, whatever, that rules out, scrap it. Everybody would be like, what? You'd have a couple of minutes where you'd probably be like, oh, that's ridiculous. You move on, and that's the thing that people don't realise. Nobody dwells on these things. The whole scrum thing, I was a bit like, I think Robbie Hunter-Paul said something stupid about in the women's final. We talked about obviously scrums not being in, and he was like, yeah, all the fat boys. The fat boys in the middle.
He said that on the telly.
Yeah, all the fat boys, and I was like, are you for real? Now, don't get me wrong.
I can't believe he said those words on the telly.
Don't get me wrong. It is a moment for the forwards to go in and take a moment. It is time, therefore, to take in all you and then give your backs a chance to play out wide or whatever else.
Like they do with scrums.
But you know what? I've played now. I've forgotten that scrums were a part of it because you adapt so quickly. Because you have to. It's the rules. You can't argue the rules. You can't argue the ref. You just do it, and that's what people need to realise. The powers that be just tell us, get rid of it. We'll adapt. We'll move forward.
I know this will be a daft analogy, but you know Headingley.
I remember it.
Right. Everyone remembers what it used to look like, but because the North Stand's been down for a few years on the Sound, you forget quickly what it did look like because it looks different now.
But that's it. It's just one of them things. But it's not even you forget and move on. It's matter of fact. If it's a rule or it's not, you have to play to that rule or not. So,
but what I don't understand is if you the analysis over 2 months is it doesn't work, and it's adding a dimension to the game that is detracting, and you want to change it.
Yeah,
change it. Now, Peter Volandis, and again, we're not comparing like with like, goes...
Did he get an Order of Australia medal?
I hope so. Yeah. Going to have a clamp down on head-high tackles. It starts now.
Yeah.
And look, there's been a week's worth of disruption because people have been caught out, and yeah, it might be there today, but the aim behind everything is protection of the players.
But that's it for that week, a disciplinary panel.
For a couple of weeks,
easy, don't they?
yeah, people are going, actually, I didn't, they were leaning into the tackle, but there's a rationale behind it. This is why we're going to do it.
Yeah.
This is why we feel we're passionate about player welfare, and we've noticed something's been creeping into the game. We're going to do something about it. Not next year, or in 3 years' time, or when we get sued by somebody. We're going to actually do it now because we've identified it as a problem. We've identified it a problem, ball stealing. Next year we'll do something about it. You go, why? Talking of which, because we mentioned Australia, we're going off in loads of tangents because there were loads of things.
So did you say Salford versus Hull and not Hull KR, by the way? Because I think you upset Sid.
I don't know.
I did that when I was commentating. I got.
Oh no, yeah, it'd only been Sid.
I apologise.
Whatever.
I apologise, Hull KR.
I'm sure I whispered the KR bit, it just didn't come out.
No, you can't do that. It's not allowed.
Penny Crayon, love the cartoon, says we can't change the law because of the World Cup. Not the best preparation for home nation players to revert to the 2020 law right now. We're just bugging it up, aren't we, basically?
Yeah, I think you'll find that the World Cup laws are not the NRL laws, so I'm not even sure we're going to have scrums in the World Cup, so, how do we adapt to that? I just think if you've already made a decision, make a decision, don't delay implementing the decision.
World Cup.
One of the great players of our time, Boyd Cordner, has announced his retirement. Sadly, age of 29.
Isn't it? Why is it?
Second Sydney Roosters player to prematurely bring an end to his career because of persistent head injuries.
Let's take a minute.
How good has he been?
Just get a bit emotional, my boys. It's my team.
I mean, they've coped amazingly, especially when you think you can add Brett Morris to that.
Yeah.
And, so that's three of the core of their team.
I cried my eyes
out. But again, a really emotional press conference in Australia to announce his retirement. But the game suddenly is looking at welfare in a different light. So firstly...
No, we've got to keep bashing people in the head. We've got to keep bashing people in the head, Phil.
How good a player was he? From a player's point of view, and somebody who didn't play in a dissimilar kind of a role to the way you did.
It's that, and I think it's that thing, isn't it? It's the consistency. It's a reliable consistency. You know that he's going to turn up. He's going to put his body on the line. It's that. I think he's got a real do or die, hasn't he? In the sense that, and hence why he has come about, because he gets his head in the wrong place, or he puts his head forward, and not because he's leading with it or he's stupid. It's because it is body on the line, and you want to. If you were to write a list of players, he's in your team, And same with Brett Morris, which is again another, probably not the fastest, but another consistent player that was, for the Roosters. And I think for me, it's consistency, like above any skill, above anything else. You turn up week in, week out, and you perform. And if you don't perform that day, you get absolutely slammed for it. But because it's such an anomaly, and it's just, if I'm honest with you, it's just a bit of a sad season, isn't it, for them?
I think there's two things with that. One is Brad Fittler, who came out and said first person he rang for New South Wales was Cordner. Because he needed to tell all the other players that Cordner was on board. He was that important to all the other players.
That's what I mean,
he's going to be a captain. He's the guy that I know you look up to. He's the bloke that we're going to build our ethos around. I can tell you, he's in the team. Right, put me down. I'll do whatever he wants. Spoke to Ryan Hall about Brett Morris, because clearly, teammates got the chance to see. And what he said. Can I say what you can read in the new issue of Forty20 out on Friday? He just knew exactly what he was.
Yeah.
And because he knew what he could do, what he could do well, what was his role, and he perfected that, he was an absolute coach's dream. Yeah,
but that's it. As a player, and I think I was coached that into me when my very England early days by Chris Chapman is, you don't need to know. You need to know everyone around you and what their kind of role is in terms of where they'll be and what their job is to do. But the only thing I need to focus on is what my specific job was on that day. And I know I play best, as do many people, when you know exactly what your job is. And, I mean, as a prop, it doesn't often change. It's yards, play the balls. But then specifically against a certain team, or you pinpoint somebody else, or you know that they're going to target you, so you might have to adapt. Having players, he just knows his role. He knows his role. He's respectful of the roles around him and how they affect the whole game. But he performs his role to the best of his. It's just a very simple concept, isn't it? Know your role. And that's when I go back to us in the semi-final. We didn't play our roles. We got lost our heads, got scatty, and everyone was trying to do everyone else's job. Some people didn't turn up as part of their role. And that's where teams fall apart. You know, your team is made up of 13 essentially, isn't it? 17, 18, whatever. But you're on that field, if Courtney Hill doesn't turn up and perform her role, as a squad we are nothing. So it's the same, isn't it? It doesn't matter what position, I don't think, but yeah, just knowing that role and knowing exactly what your job is as that position is just such a crucial and simple thing that is very hard to come by.
Everything's simple. When she was down at the nines, did you ask her to try and get you in?
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't ring you back.
Yeah, well, I just said,
Still waiting for the call.
Do you know what, I didn't
They've
even bother.
expanded the teams, though.
I wasn't
They've
even.
got more opportunities.
Yeah, no, I wasn't even bothered about playing. Or I was like, "Where's the stash?" But then Courtney came back with stash that is this big, so I wasn't bothered about that. I was like, "Just give me some stash." You know,
Your team. She played for your team.
I know. I got so giddy. She's ace, isn't she? But no, I did try. I asked her. I didn't even care about playing. I just wanted to get either some good pictures or some good stash, and she didn't get me either.
It's all right.
Again,
stuff,
simple
free
thing,
stuff, yeah.
simple job.
Well, this is why I reckon the RFL have made a profit last year, because they didn't have to pay for media food at Wembley, which, as we know, costs a fortune, or give any pens out.
No.
Because the amount of pens they give for the media every year.
No, I've never had an RFL pen.
Well, usually better fed ones.
It works really well and then it runs out quite quickly.
I wouldn't know.
Can I talk about another player?
Yeah, because I don't know what I was going to ask about anyway.
Well, I don't know if anybody wants to interact.
No, they're not watching Boris Johnson or Pullman versus... Because that's what... people say, where's Scully? It's the same place he always is. Where's Mark? He's in St Petersburg.
Is he?
And when he was in Warrington yesterday, now he's in St Petersburg.
That's alright, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, he may not be, but, it might be.
Catalan Dragons, top of the league.
They are top of the league.
Having a laugh.
Yeah.
Toulouse, top of the championship.
Yeah.
Good time.
Vive la France, yeah.
French Elite One final on Saturday as well. Watch it on live streaming. Arthur Morg. How good. How exciting. This is just the kind of player we should be... we should all be getting behind and glorying in the skill and the excitement level that they bring.
Yeah. I mean... How many games does it take to make a good play? How long does it take you to spot a good player, do you think? Is it when a team's doing well? Is it over time? Is it consistency? Is it a one-off special?
Well, with Gary it was like 20 seconds. We're like,
exactly.
Nice, the greatest player ever.
This is what I mean.
But I think he's now put down a marker.
Yeah, fair.
He is one of the most exciting young talents, and he's got wonderful footwork, speed and awareness.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it?
And he's playing either at fullback or at hooker, so he's doing it in two positions.
That's his footwork, yeah, but if you think, it is the footwork thing, which I am always in awe of, because mine move forwards. It's just, the backwards is a struggle. But he breaks ankles for fun, if not his own. I don't understand sometimes how people move that swiftly. It's poetry in motion. But no. And what a quite a vast positions, isn't it, really? You know, front row, well, it's not really that much, doesn't matter now the scrums are not there. Or do you want to go at the very back? There, you talk about the job role thing, to adapt to that. That's a skill in itself. Just an all-round. I don't have it, so...
I think, again, we need to praise where praise is due, and every time I've seen him over the last 3 or 4 weeks, he's made a considerable impact on the game.
Before
whether
that?
he's come off the bench or...
Yeah.
and you just think, wow, if we can find some more kids like him.
But yeah, so that goes back to, how old is he?
22. A babe.
Yeah. You know, you're getting older and you think 22 is young, don't you?
I'm watching the sons of players that I watched playing. That's when you know you're old.
Do you think it's an innate thing, or do you think it's a confidence thing? Like,
part of it's the coach that gives you the license to do it, and I just think it's nice to see Steve McNamara's brought him on slowly, and now he's sort of unleashing him more and more, and it's getting to the point where the player himself is now saying to his coach, "You can't really drop me."
Yeah.
So, I was a bit reluctant. When do I throw you on? Do I give you a few minutes? Do I put you in the squad but not play you? And then, we have to play you because we've got a couple of injuries. I might play you on the wing to start with. And then the kid's given his head and he goes, "This is what I can do." And the coach goes, "You're undroppable."
Yeah.
I think it's exciting because there's obviously
Do you think it's like, you're right, there's an undeniable skill. You can't deny the skill.
Yeah, no,
there's an undeniable skill, but it's also that the flash of what they needed. Like, something needed to happen, and therefore, this kid looks great. I mean, he is great, you can't deny it, but it's come at a time where we're so crucial for them.
I also think they were in danger of becoming a forward-dominated, structured team to the point where creativity was a second.
That's what they had,
But you stick him in there, and a couple of Matthew Laguerre, who looks quite good in the centre, and you suddenly think, actually, they're finding an identity. But I'm excited for France in the World Cup. I know England play them, but I think with people like him, if he's playing and he's fit and he's given the right role, suddenly they become more of a threat. We watched State of Origin. Unfortunately, we can't make the result because the wrong team.
Have they closed down
thrashed.
Queensland Rugby League now?
No.
Those brave boys.
I think they all got a telegram saying.
What happened?
I don't know. I can't remember.
I think.
Don't read everything into it. There's another 2 games yet. It doesn't matter what you lose
know, but just
by.
for now,
That's all right. But what I was going to say was Jerome Luai.
Still haven't said it, has he?
I can't. Who had one of the greatest debuts of anyone I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And Brian Toto, who didn't do too bad on the wing either. They could both, and should both, be lining up for Samoa against England in the first game of the World Cup. And you're going, wow. We are going to be so lucky that we got giddy because Tonga looked like they were going to break the monopoly of England, Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, we get giddy when they beat Australia, but when they beat us, it's like, oh, bloody hell.
So we're going, Tonga, they're made the semi-finals. We've got Fiji, who made the last 3 semi-finals. We've got PNG, who are getting undeniably better because the Hunters are playing in the Queensland competition. We've now got, if they get the coaching situation right, some of these Samoans, and you're going, on the one hand, they're playing England, we might not win. I'm a bit worried about that. And on the other hand, I cannot wait to see guys like this because, like Arthur Morg, they are so exciting.
It's having that consistent playing time, though, isn't it? And the level that they're playing at, and you learn from the experience around you, which is only going to make.
But some people make it look innate. Mm-hmm. And others, it takes them time to get to that level and to stay at that level. Luai, I think, for me, made one of the most impressive debuts at the highest level he's ever played, and didn't compromise anything he's done for Penrith over the last 2 years. Now that might be great coaching because he was told to do a role that he was comfortable with. It might be having even more great players around him. It might be having Nathan Cleary alongside him, so he doesn't have to do
or it might just be the sheer.
But it might just be that. He was so good at adapting to that level that some of it's down to him as well.
Well, I think it'd be sad as a player to not say it was down to that player. Like, as any player, they play well, and everyone says, "Oh, the coach, they've done this," or the academy, or the whatever. At the end of the day, there's only one person on that pitch that's playing for themselves, and that's the player. And whether you're, little Jason or whatever, but that player themselves has a natural skill or is really mouldable and adaptable that is then coached well. But I don't think anybody's going to turn up to a game and just think, "Oh, I'm going to be mediocre today."
No, but I think it's a confidence
thing.
But
you don't want
to. You're in such a high level, you don't want to let your mates see you.
But then if you're playing in a State of Origin, which is one of the biggest rivalries, the biggest competitions, aside from the World Cup or whatever you can be in terms of, it's not domestic, but that level, that annual thing. 1, you've been picked. 2, you're training then alongside. Bearing in mind, there's still some guys in there that you would have watched reviews and been like, and you might even play in the same team as them or stuff, but you never ever get rid of that. I'm in the same team as this person. There's a fine line between where you think, what am I doing here, versus I've been picked, I must be good, I'm playing alongside, I'm either starting or I'm coming off the bench or however it works, but you're in that match day squad, and you've got to sit back and go, obviously somebody thinks I can perform, so I've got to go and do it. I think we don't have enough of that where we say to players, you earn the right to be there, and yeah, it's because you've been coached well, or it's because you've developed well or whatever. But at the end of the day, I don't think we give the players enough credit just for saying you are good in it. Like,
well, that guy who nearly got 50 caps.
That one, him.
He was 18 when he made his Great Britain debut.
It's mentioned in the paper today.
Absolutely fearless, and I just love seeing kids who back themselves, or young talent that could easily be inhibited by the stage that they're on.
Yeah.
Saying, no, I'm going to justify why I've been selected.
I think that was for me, like Jack Walker, obviously, bless him with the injuries and stuff. But he rocks up, he comes into a very strong squad.
He was...
Yeah, he comes into a squad, he's getting tasters here, there and everywhere. Then all of a sudden, he's been handed the number 1 shirt, and it's like everyone's going, oh, he's too young, is he good enough, is he this, that? And he steps out onto the pitch, and he's not an arrogant kid, he's still so young in his mentality and how he, and everything that he does. And he's like, it's mine now, I've got to perform in it. And it's that kind of thing where we love to doubt. It's like, I think Barry McDermott said it, didn't he, when Jason scored the try? He doesn't know how good he's going to be. Then he stopped himself, because we are so good at putting pressure on, or expectations, or just being negative about somebody, they're too young, or they shouldn't have, why they're playing yet. I think that also there's a fine line where the players have got to go out and go, this is why, thank you very much, take a bow. I don't know, it's more difficult as a player, isn't it? Because
the best of anything make it look easy. As Carsten will know, he's watching on Facebook, so I'll look at that camera. He knows how easy we make this look every Monday. I can't read your other question out.
Even
Carsten.
more professional than GB News.
It's like I'm like Andrew Neil here.
I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
No. Just look at the hair. Alan says, would you like to see a men versus women's game in the future? You'd beat them all up, wouldn't you?
No, I wouldn't.
Billie Jean King.
It'd be crap, wouldn't it?
No, it wouldn't. It would be... Do you know what?
I stopped comparing. They're very different.
But this is the thing. So, first of all, as whether I want... We are just genetically different anyway, so it wouldn't work. Secondly, can you imagine the stick we would get if we won? We wouldn't be like, hey, the women are brilliant. They'd be like, oh, can you imagine the comments?
They didn't try.
They'll
let you win. They'll let you win. It's like when you play a girl.
The men don't want to tackle them.
It's like when you play a girl at pool in the pub and you let them win.
There's no pity points around here.
To let them win.
What I would like to see is not a men's versus women's. Is a very similar thing to the All Stars type thing where we have an England. I've said this to you, haven't I? An England women's versus the rest of the leagues. I reckon that we'd give her a good run for the money. I'll tell you that for sure.
Probables and possibles. Bring it back.
What I'd like, maybe training together, or because I think the men's game is better. We're still developing, and we bring a completely different thing. You might not get the big bopping bashes week in, week out. You might get in the odd games or the odd meetings, but we could learn a lot from training with. And I don't mean regularly, whether it's the England girls training with the England men, or them running through the same sets, and you run through the same drills, but then you go off separately to do it. But having that, everyone's coming from the same idea, the umbrella thing, that this is how England want to play. Like at Leeds Rhinos, we get at the start of the season, obviously not COVID now, but definitely 2020 when we're going to start the season, everyone gets the same chat. Everyone gets the same, these are our goals, these are our morals, these are our unique points. Whether it's the academy, whether it's under 16s, the women's, the men's, the wheelchair, the netball.
Well, that's Paul's mentioned the netball. Is there any synergy between the two of you? And I guess with COVID, that's not going to be the same as it might have been anyway.
No, we think there was a moment where we had similar S&C coaches, but the timing of it and how when they train and when we train, and they obviously use the sports hall and stuff up in
Leeds Beckett.
Leeds Beckett, yeah, that was it. I was going to go Leeds Met then, old school.
Leeds Poly.
No, and I know that Leanne is about as close a link who's our media, but no, there isn't any link. But the only link is that we know that they sing off the same song sheet, in the sense that as much as it's a club, it's a brand. We are the Leeds Rhinos brand, so we all have the same chat and the same ethos.
There's an interesting thing that's going to happen, because the England squads are announced in the next week or so, aren't they? Men's, women's, wheelchair, whatever. We've just seen the utter entire mess that the ECB have had to deal with. Someone at the RFL is going to have to go through the social media histories of the players who are going to be picked.
That's a really interesting question.
Because they need to do it before somebody else does. Because I know there are tweets out there.
Would you take responsibility for your social media feed, or would you expect the management of a club or international
My
team?
personal one would be me.
Do you know that you have to? Because you have a certain status in the sport. Do you now look back over your history of social media?
For example, when Phil said John Wilkins joining the magazine, I thought, well, I better check back and see if I've tweeted anything bad about John Wilkins. I thought, I haven't, it's all right.
Well, I'm slightly different in the sense that I don't think I've ever tweeted anything bad.
Well, that's the
I'm
thing.
quite a nice person.
You sort of know, don't you?
I have tweeted things where...
Have I tweeted anything racist? No, because I'm not a racist.
Well, no, but I have tweeted things where I've had Phil Daly ring me up and go, can you remove that? It's just because I think I'm funny. I am actually hilarious.
Either that or a bottle of wine too many.
No, I'm not that type of... No. Don't be silly. I'm not them tweeters. You're not one of them tweets. It's like Sophie Robinson is probably...
Let's throw her under the bus, why don't you?
No, Sophie Robinson is the most active person on Twitter.
Oh, her Instagram's brilliant. All the food, I love it.
Yeah, well, that's Food with Sophie. Follow on Instagram.
That's what I'm blamed for putting on all the weight.
If you want to know what's available in Leeds and Manchester area for good food, she'll give you an honest review. And it's brutally honest. But she's the most active person on Twitter that I know. And there are some where you think, oh, but it's not racist or it's not derogatory, it's just honest.
No, I think her tweets are what players should be like.
She's just active, isn't she? But yeah,
she doesn't say anything.
Now, see, you go.
Some people would say they're controversial, but they're in line with the views that I would hold. So they're all right.
Controversial is not necessarily offensive.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah, so I mean, we've had the chat about social media. Be careful about it. Don't put anything too not extreme, but just be wary that the fact that if you're going to put Leeds Rhinos or whatever in your bio, that you therefore are automatically. And I think I've never done it anyway. Not that I would, but I'm also a teacher, so I've also got the other umbrella. But yeah, I mean, you are in control. If you tweet something out controversial, whether you're a player or whether you're an international player or whether you're just a person, if you think for a second it might be deemed inappropriate, you shouldn't have done it in the first place. Well, I don't care who you are.
Or you can go back and delete it, because people do change over time.
Yes, and I appreciate that.
And they do have contrary opinions put to them that makes them change the way they look at life. But you need to be self-regulatory. Or if you have an agent, we talked about this before, if you've got an agent and you sign a player on your books, as an agent, one of the first things you should do is go through your client's Twitter feed or Instagram feed or whatever, and just say, we're deleting that, because that is going to harm the chance of you getting another contract, or somebody's going to drag this up at a time when...
But it's not even you getting the contract, it's therefore who you play for and who you're representing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You are therefore, as soon as you sign for somebody, you're representing them. And whether you tweet something out 2 weeks ago or 10 years ago, it doesn't matter. It's still there. That's the danger about social media, though, isn't it? It's in that plethora of the World Wide Web, whatever it is. Somebody just types your name and a certain word, and anything that's related will come up.
And context isn't necessarily relevant.
And what happened 10 years ago and how you tweeted versus how you tweet now, the way you speak, your grammatical errors, or however it is, everything matters, isn't it? Like, I might have to go back actually and check my tweets just for grammatical errors. That will be the only problem.
You need an editor.
Yeah, I do. Do you know what I mean?
But I would you know, seriously, I mean, if we know people watch this programme, you know, if you think you're going to be in the England squads announced next week, check your Twitter, because someone will. There are people out there who will, you know.
Absolutely.
Because we've seen what will happen with, you know, cricketers I've never heard of. Even James Anderson sent a stupid banter tweet out.
It didn't happen with Ross Peltier.
Yeah.
And he...
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't see the content of his tweets, but that's his political career over.
Well, that's it, yeah.
Done.
And also this thing where you now have to put an honest tweet, an apologetic tweet out that people don't know about, so therefore can only assume what it may have been. So...
It's...
Yes, it is now the part of a governing body and or management team to say we need to take charge of checking back over.
Or just remind your players, you know, it shouldn't have to happen, but remind your players.
It's important.
Not that everyone who puts stuff on social media gets censored for what they put on social media, but you know. Carsten says he's not going to be in the England squad. Well, you never know, Carsten. You might be in the cricket squad at this rate. You'll run out of players at some point.
You're playing Euro D for Germany, Carsten.
No, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. It's been pushed back a month. The Freedom Day. Apparently,
There's people marching outside the window. No.
the Challenge Cup might have more people. That might be one of the
exempt events. Yeah.
So,
well, again, going to have to be very careful about. There are 20,000 people in Wembley at the moment for the Euros, which was supposed to be going up. Be very hard to discriminate now against sports and say, well, they can have it in that venue, but you can't.
But UEFA's got more money.
But also,
I was also Sadiq Khan prattling around on the telly on Friday night, you know. So, you know.
Do you not also want to see the backlash? You know, touch wood, there isn't any from it. But then you've got to use these events just to check if, you know, I don't want there to be because I'm quite like everybody else. It's
we're all in the same boat.
You know, but
everyone is in the same boat.
You know, you can imagine that 20,000 people are there now, and nobody checks anything out. It's not monitored or whatever. Typically, Rugby League will go down, and there'll be 1,000 cases or what. You know, it'll be one of them things, isn't it, where that happens. So they got some consistency.
I was getting me head checked when I was going in to watch the Women's Super League games. It was all right.
Get your head checked.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you got
I think it's that simple.
Yeah. Get the old temperature. Think, oh, you're all right. Oh, you can come in. Oh, great.
Oh, I did a temperature one the other day, and it said I was 34.1, and I was like, you sure about that?
Because you've been out in the sun.
I know I'm cold-hearted, but it's taking it a bit too far, that, isn't it?
Not orange enough.
No.
But you've never been 32 point something, have you?
No. What about you?
A man barely alive.
Cold to the core.
Barrow. Can I say Barrow?
You can say, what do you want to say about Barrow?
Barrow got 1,700 people watching them at a League One game.
Did they?
Higher crowd than any championship game. And I know we're dealing with...
Does that mean we should kick everyone out of the championship but Barrow?
No, I'm just saying what a great job they've done in promoting the sport, giving away tickets to school kids in South Cumbria.
Wow.
Very proactive with having a beer garden when they were shut down and couldn't play rugby. So everybody socially distanced, made themselves a real community hub. Everything that is right about our sport, Barrow are doing at the moment. So just wanted to say, and they're unbeaten at the top of League One. Well done, Barrow.
I forgot social media one. I took a leaf at your book and upset Castleford fans yesterday.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, by retweeting something from 3 years ago to make a point about something. But so I got them all
I haven't
riled
upset
up.
anybody for a while.
I know, I got them all riled up.
Maybe tonight is the night.
Which was good. But it was in regards to Bradford Bulls who, you know, don't send out tweets during a game saying a pass was definitely backwards when the referee says it's forwards. You know, grow up. How do they know?
Grow up.
How do they know from the stand? If a pass is forward or back when the referee's there.
The difficult thing is, you just don't tweet it because whatever the ref said has happened, so there's no point
You know,
dwelling.
the RFL should sanction them, bringing the game into disrepute.
Yes.
I mean, they won't, but they should. Carsten was on the German bench for the last international versus Netherlands, not as a player, but it strengthened my opinion to never play full tackle again. If you'd got on Carsten, you could have won the Golden Boot last year. Is it still the Serbian fellow who's winning the Golden Boot? I presume played the Philippines.
I'm not sure that was a fully sanctioned. Well, I think it is. It just wasn't a ranking event because it was only heritage players.
They don't get a cap. you was mentioned in, was it at half time? Oh, you were there, you wouldn't have watched it. Because I did actually watch the game and listened to the coverage. That you were trying to find some kind of international team to jimmy yourself into for the World Cup.
Well, Andy Dobson's the Scotland head coach.
Have
isn't she?
Estonia got a women's team?
No.
Have you had Haggis before?
No.
No.
But I think she was more referring to my wonderfully golden glow.
Oh, for Brazil. Yeah.
For Brazil.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I had any remote heritage for Brazil, I'd be going for that. I think...
Word seems to be they're going to shock a few people.
I know. I really hope so.
That they've
The
got
Canadians said the same as well, didn't
genuine athletes.
Do you know what? The Canadians are genuinely good squad, though.
But the Brazilians have got some Rugby Union Sevens players. They've got a women's championship now at the moment.
I'd love that, you see. So, I think it's brilliant anyway, isn't it? We can say the opening game is England versus Brazil. I think it just sounds great.
Yeah.
It sounds like a World Cup.
Yeah, England versus Brazil. It just, it sounds lovely. But for then Brazil to come out and perform would be even better. Now, I'm not saying whether they win or lose, but a good competitive performance. You know, the unknown. I love it. You know, and then we can claim, well, we sent Lois for sellouts to do some coaching back in, you know.
Did she bring back Stash?
Probably, but she keeps that low key, doesn't she? And I know she's tiny as well, so it's no use to me.
No.
But I think, you know, we can. When Brazil are really good, we'll be like, oh yeah, Lois went out.
Well,
there,
they'll need a mentor, won't they? Because they're based in Leeds.
Yeah.
So all you need to do is arrange to be.
Find some steakhouses.
Oh,
That's
I
what
might be
Brazilians
great.
do. Yeah.
Maybe Sophie about that, but
Yeah. Or be her assistant.
listen,
No,
I am.
cultural attaché.
Yeah, I think when it was the 2012 Olympics, I was languages and what was the role? Language and something coordinator.
Culture.
Yeah, something like that.
Culture.
I was working between cultures, and I was like, language. I was like, my languages are very limited. So like
Estonian.
2.5. And I didn't even put that in my application, but I can definitely do that for the World Cup.
I think you should be the cultural attaché for the Brazilian women's team.
Fine. If somebody's got to do it, I'll do it.
Show them all the sights of Leeds.
Yeah, no, I'm taking on for the team here. Don't you worry, I'll get...
Yeah. And of course, you know, a couple of coaching sessions.
Yeah.
Bit of insight into the opposition that they're going to be playing.
Yeah, I wouldn't share that, though. So if Brazil are watching this, if you want me to, I wouldn't share.
Well, I thought
It's is it someone with an OBE?
Yes.
we haven't talked about that yet. All the games this week. Who cares about the games?
Okay, you see.
I don't know. Well, if you lost, so I'm not interested in
Is that
whether
mine?
they win or not.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's hot.
Yeah, but I'm cold, so I can handle the heat.
We're back to Chester out, by the way, on the Wakefield Facebook group.
Oh, one defeat.
Yeah, Chester out. Dave Fafita scored again. He must be after a contract. He must be up at the end of the season. I hope he's not watching.
Or his agent.
Yeah, no, his agent will be. What was I going to say? I was going to ask you something. I can't remember.
About me being Brazil's cultural.
Brazil's
manager.
I think we've got you that gig now.
Yeah.
Tonight.
I mean, wait.
No, I'll do the Canadian. They were such a good crack in the 2017 World Cup. I wanted to be in their squad just because they looked like they were having fun.
They sounded like it when we had that Canadian special.
They're confident as well. They've got this.
They were good.
And it's not brash. They just go, no, we're not making up the numbers.
Yeah,
we're
but the
coming.
thing is, they went and they performed. They're in the semi-final, you know?
And they're going to have a Tim Hortons in Leeds by the time.
Yes.
I hope so, because that's all Sandy ever goes on about.
That's how I
Yeah,
know.
Tim Hortons is great.
Yeah.
In Leeds.
Yeah. But they really performed, and they just had a good crack as well. You know, like when we did the opening kind of...
I'm only having this because you recommend
They
it.
They are good. Have you seen the old advert term? It's hilarious.
I don't know if I've
Yeah, but you know these are orange flavour.
chocolate orange flavour.
Oh, well, they do. What orange on them?
I don't know if they're on Rugby League player diet.
Nope, but I'll have one anyway. I'm a rebel without
just hide,
cause.
just hide it.
No, if I'm going to have one, I'm going to do it proud.
Do it properly, yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned England Rugby Union Sevens people signing for York. Is that going to be the new thing? We're going to sign loads of England Rugby Union people as a sport?
Well, do you know what? I don't know why there's not a big
Because obviously
crossover.
the men can't sign Rugby Union players anymore because they have too much money in men's Rugby Union. But
Yeah. And there's
I don't know how much money's in women's rugby union or not. I don't know.
Nothing in sevens because they cut all the budget.
Oh,
Yeah,
did,
they cut-
yeah. And obviously, there's no money in women's rugby league. We know that. So.
Yet.
Yeah, but you're paving the way for the people of the future. Don't forget, they'll be standing on your shoulders or something.
I pay my own fuel to get to my games.
Yeah, but just think about how in the future you'll be able to think these girls getting paid, and that's because of my hard work in the past.
I'm not sure I'm that much of a pioneer in the game.
I think you are.
No, but all the other people. Then.
You know what I am setting up is that people are going to go, at least she's not as outspoken as that Danika Priim. You know, I've got somebody's back.
Mm.
Well, it's only taken about 2 years for me to learn how to pronounce your name, so that's a positive. 3 years.
Well.
How do we get? We need to work out how to fill in one of these forms, right? To get some of these women pioneers who are not Danica to get an award from the Queen. Because obviously,
You or not me?
well, you've just said you're not as important as all these other people.
I know, but I quite like a...
Quite like
Do you like a gong?
I quite like some letters after my name. It's just a... It's like when you can pay, can't you, to be a doctor
yeah,
rather than a Mrs. or a Miss.
like those people. You can be like you can pay online to be like a vicar with some made up American.
Yeah,
church.
get ordained for somebody's wedding online.
So, like, if we were going to do, because obviously it's the hot button topic now, because obviously everyone in Rugby League's got an award. It's like Muttley from Wacky Races. Danica's too young, do you remember that?
I know Wacky Races.
But he always got
Dick Dastardly.
Penelope Pitstop.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Dick Dastardly, obviously the greatest,
Peter Perfect.
greatest motor racer of all time, Dick Dastardly. Very much the inspiration from Michael
37 this
Schumacher in
year.
the 90s. Muttley used to always get a medal for being good, like some people in Rugby League have obviously got this weekend. Who should we be writing the forms for in the women's game to get nominated for the work? Obviously, because they're not going to get paid, so they might as well get a medal to get some letters after their name.
Andrea Dobson would be my top
She was
number
really
one.
good on the telly, I thought.
She's ace. She's just brilliant. She's honest. She's so knowledgeable about the game. She's a bit like the John Wilkin in the nicest, better way, in the sense that
She's got a coffee shop.
no, but I mean, like she can play. She can play multiple roles. She knows the game so well. She can see her vision for the game. Her analysis is great.
Vision.
She was the best captain I've ever had in my whole career. She has grafted from, being 16. She's currently the most capped player. She played 2 games for Great Britain and then moved to England. So I don't even think her caps from Great Britain count. So she has more. She's still in the game. She's been working in the game. She is, Andy Dobson's up there.
Because obviously there isn't a women's Hall of Fame, and I don't know if they separate it. Or
Isn't there going to be something
Yes.
for the World Cup? Like,
Oh, right, well, I don't know these things, so I just throw these out
women.
there. Right.
I don't know if it's. But I know there's a Hall of Fame. Because I remember when we were at Bradford and we went to the Lord Mayor's tea party when we won the treble,
Yeah.
and there was a woman. Oh, it's going to be really bad. I can't remember her name. There was a woman who said,
There's always a woman.
"You will be in the World Cup Hall of Fame
Right.
when it comes round in
Whenever. Yeah.
2021."
21.
But
Well, if it doesn't happen, we'll blame COVID.
yeah, but I don't know if. But
I
it's
think
like
there's going to be heritage numbers if there aren't already.
we've all got heritage numbers. I've had mine recently tattooed on my ankle. Number 56.
There you go.
There's a lot of other things going on there. It's not a very good tattoo, but
Not an
Yeah, well,
I'm only slightly traumatised because of that.
They didn't see it, so it's all right.
I'm not that flexible, so I'll take a picture and put it out later. No, but we've all got the girls.
Does that get cancelled? I don't know.
The girls play with heritage numbers on their shirts now.
Brilliant. So all of
Whereas
that.
we did it. That came in after the World Cup. I think Andy, Beth Sutcliffe, Emma Slow, Jodie, Emily, Lois, and people like that got the bronze or silver.
Because they've got something
so
to get,
the amount of caps you got, and they now get that. So there were things that came into play. And then after the World Cup, there's been heritage numbers. There's obviously been the caps. Everyone gets a cap now. We got our caps given to us after at Lee when it was the New Zealand Test series. So yeah, we are catching up. But yeah, Hall of Fame. Do you have current players in the Hall of Fame, or do you just have retired players?
Normally, you've got to have retired for a certain amount of time.
Kirsty Maroney, Bess Sutcliffe, Andy Dobson.
It's a tricky one because
John
obviously,
Walsh.
and Phil will know more about this than I do, but the Men's Hall of Fame came along in 1988, so like long after the sport had been.
Yeah, exactly. So if you think about,
you got a fair few to go at.
Yeah, and Neil Fox wasn't allowed until the year after because he didn't retire until 1979, despite holding the world record and not coming back.
But then you have people like Nat Harrowell, who we lost obviously at Christmas because Featherstone have retired her shirt, which I just think is brilliant, and they have her number on all of their playing shirts. She would have been in the World Cup. She would have been in the World Cup, and so do you have people like that in it as well? There's plenty of names I could give to you.
As an awkward segue from that, because it's
never stopped us before.
No, because I pointed out this yesterday because they showed Warrington and Huddersfield. Huddersfield should either wear squad numbers with names on, or no team should wear them because it just looked untidy. They've got numbers on the back but no names. I need to know who they are.
Well, again,
because Warrington had names on the back.
Standards.
I did watch the game thinking,
if it's Super League, it should have Super League standards.
But then that is a finance thing, isn't it, for clubs?
but I do think that's the same for the Championship, where you get players on loan who just wear 32 and no name, and they should have the name on the back as well.
Not sure
But
that's
then-
a cost, though, really. Is it? Putting the name on the
Well, so
back
we
of
all
the shirt?
have a shirt now. We have our
Because you
specific
get a
shirts.
squad number, so it's not like you've got to change the shirt every week. It's
But then when you've got a team that are not consistent in the sense that we've got it's hard to get into Leeds to say,
Obviously, yeah.
and therefore you earn that shirt so much that you don't want to leave, like you don't want to leave. Whereas Huddersfield, who are relatively new, you've got, there's a girl, Oyen, who played her first Super League game for Huddersfield, who I begged to be in my Year 7 squad at school, and that's the reason she's into rugby. If I was her, and it's not because I think I'm so good, but she said her biggest fear is playing against me. What happens if that fear's so great?
I think that'll be mine as well.
I mean, I'm not even that good, you know what I mean? I'm too nice. But they don't have a consistent rotation of players at the minute, and I don't know. I understand.
I'm speaking from aesthetics rather than...
But also, if we're going to sell them as potential stars, we need to know who they are, because...
but it's Saints' his first year having them on the back of their shirts.
Mark Wilson, of this parish,
Currently in St Petersburg.
Who has been, can I just say, I think he's been phenomenal. And
He's
I
the
know
best in the business.
but I know he's great at his job, but he's we've had Sharon Chortle as well, who's been brilliant, but genuinely, one person who, whether he does his research, whether he's genuinely interested or not, you listen to him, and I love listening to him commentate the women's game, especially if there's not necessarily like women, there's not been a woman alongside him yet. Just a little bit annoying. Leon was good, Leon Price was good, and he's had a few nice people, but somebody in the women's game who genuinely makes the game sound great, so I want to thank him. I think he's great.
Well, that's because
he's great at his job anyway, isn't he? But
yeah,
he's the best.
But there is a shared passion for promoting the women's game.
Yeah, but it makes it difficult for him if you've got a team sheet, bits and pieces about people, and they haven't got anybody in the back of the names. But like I say, Huddersfield are new to this. But Saints have only just had their spot on the back of their shirts.
Getting a team sheet sometimes.
Well, Mark, who writes a column in a certain magazine that's out on Friday, sponsored by TalkSport, was at TalkSport Towers when the women's final was on, and he says in his column he went and had his lunch at a sports bar just at the bottom of where they broadcast from, and the women's game was on, and he said there were loads of people who wouldn't otherwise in any way whatsoever have ever come in contact with rugby league or women's rugby league, who were sitting there watching it, and he just sat there listening to their comments that were solely complimentary about what they were watching.
I'd love to do
Now,
that.
that's why you need names on the back, because if you're appealing to an unfamiliar audience, and they were, who's that just did that phenomenal piece of skill? Oh, it says Priim on the back of the shoe.
He was like that, just got bashed. It was Rotherham.
He was just got sent.
But if there is no name, it's harder to identify and build up the personalities. I just think it's a minimum
it's difficult
requirement.
because I think, so for Bradford Bulls having played there, the support from the club isn't that great, and therefore access to printing. So they're Their shirts are made up of leftovers from the men.
But it should. What I'm saying is, the minimum standards should say you go out with a squad name and a squad number.
But if we had minimum standards, we wouldn't have half the teams in the league.
It was.
So there's a fine line, real fine line.
Well,
aesthetically, I'm all for it.
You might have answered. You might have said something there which needed to be said, but it was at the start of the season when we did our preview shows. It was interesting which clubs take this seriously and which ones don't, or which clubs bothered to reply to.
Yeah, we can go back and look at the politics of the whole Castleford and York with all the girls. York have offered some monetary, incentives. They've offered X, Y, and Z, and Cass can't physically offer that. Cass cannot compete. And since then, Castleford have stepped up and their training grounds improved. So it has put pressure on Castleford. But they don't physically have the money for the women's game at the minute. And it's much like Leeds, who you would say is probably one of the most, the richest clubs in the Super League in general anyway. We have been very, very lucky, and I will never, ever be able to thank Leeds for what they did for the women's game, whether they should have or not. At the time, there was no precedent set. But they did. They set the platform for the Women's Super League by kit, training ground, physios, nutritionalists, psychology, just the club in general in terms of having buses to matches and not having to drive, or the team managers, the coaches. And Adam helped a lot with that because he was still playing for the men's team. But they set a platform. And in the first year we didn't have names on the back of our shirts. But the end of that season we got our heritage numbers, which then meant the season after we got squad numbers, which then meant, as that's gone through, Cass then got squad numbers, and then this year, it's taken a couple of years later for Saints to even get them. So, you've got to set a level, and the RFL can't go in and say, you have to have this, and this, and this, because we just wouldn't have it. They just don't have it.
And I know this sounds daft, and I'm sure it was an oversight, but it took the Saints club Twitter 21 hours to reply to Faye Gaskin's tweet about her injury, and I thought they should have done that a lot.
Saints generally, they've tweeted out the odd bits and pieces, but it took Saints until the Challenge Cup final to tweet out about the women on their Twitter page. They have done the
one of their
tidbits,
players,
Yeah, but they
as
have.
Much as
again, that's what I say. It's very difficult for me because we have been so well supported by Leeds, and we have match days, or they retweet us, or they, and whatever.
Well, they've got a dedicated team for.
Yeah, and it's just different, isn't it? So, I thought Saints, the most active I've seen Saints about the women's game was because of the Challenge Cup. And Faye then also got loads of support from Saints players.
Yeah.
You look at the players who have commented on it, or have retweeted her, or messaged her, or...
I think it's difficult because I'm acutely aware that in terms of attendance figures or whatever, we probably over-promote the women's game more in terms of talking about it on this programme than where the interest level is. So I know we are doing whatever we do. And some people have criticised us at times, not for that, but for not always being overly positive, which I don't think is fair, because I think one of the criticisms you can level at the coverage of women's football, certainly on TV, is there is no negativity allowed. There is never any criticism of players or coaches.
There's never anything negative about the actual game or the players or the teams, is it?
Yeah.
It's just the...
and I think you have to have that, otherwise...
administration of it all.
Otherwise, you are presenting a false image.
But then
players do knock on, players aren't perfect.
So I understand that the women's game is not for everybody. Absolutely not. And some people are like, you're not here to listen about the women's game or not. But if you support a team, so if you support St Helens, or if you support Wigan, or Huddersfield, or blah, 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 what you're supporting is that team. And whether they have a men's, a women's, or an academy, or a wheelchair, surely, this is going to make me a very popular person, you support a team and not a men's team. Because I know there's a Leeds Rhinos fan, and he has been very active in Twitter saying he does not support, and he's changed his Twitter bio to Leeds Rhinos men and academies. And I don't think it says only, but it's very...
# Leeds men in crisis.
Yeah. So, but my view is, as a rugby league supporter for many, many years, not a women's rugby league supporter, just a rugby league supporter, I've supported Leeds Rhinos, and if I didn't play for them, I'd still want the women's team to do well, because that's my team. The badge is the badge, and who you play for, you know.
So tell us about Faye, because I have never ever seen. I mean, we were talking about Josh Griffin last week. I've never seen a player have to go through what he went through. I've seen people do injuries, but never to the point where the excruciating pain is such that nothing else matters. But Faye's was just like the most unfortunate injury ever, because she was literally jumping for joy.
Yeah. And that picture will not get out of my mind. I can't.
Because you know her as well as anybody.
Yeah, really well.
Roomed with her and
gone
on tour with her. And
I first played rugby league when I was at university as England students, and I refer to Faye as Forrest Gump and Jenny. We were Forrest and Jenny, and that's back in 2011, 12, maybe. Yeah, significantly long enough ago to. We were Forrest and Jenny. Because she was leader of the pack, she was the captain. She's been the half. She's the greatest half in the women's game. She's the greatest kicker in the women's game in England at the minute. I wasn't in the England squad far enough, but we won't mention that. But she's hardworking. She is great at her job. She's so hard on herself, and she obviously Saints didn't start particularly well in the final. She recognised, put on a face pass, and celebrated her try assist, jumped, landed, and the picture is of her leg, and it just looks like a bow. It just... Why that was even allowed to be tweeted out, I've got PTSD.
Don't talk about people that have focused on...
I've got PTSD from the injuries. And obviously she went down, and within half an hour she was back out with a full leg brace on, and the outcome is not fantastic, and there's lots of complications in it, and it's just bloody awful because she's out for the season.
And her World Cup hopes have gone.
She wasn't even in the England squad. She hadn't even been selected for that.
She would have been.
She told us that last year on the show, remember?
I can't just keep talking about Faye, not that. But
it's not an age discrimination.
No, it's not. It's not. Politics. But
Rugby League.
It's madness, isn't it? It's not all rainbows and unicorns. No, but a really nasty injury in a really unfortunate time for her in the game, and a really unfortunate for Saints to lose such a pivotal. You know, it's good for Beth Stott, because Beth Stott is always in Faye's shadow. So Beth is a very, very good half, and now is going to have to step up with Jodie. But yeah, she's got a long road to recovery. The thing that I want to... I have to question myself sometimes. So, Josh Griffin...
I was questioning you.
So, Josh Griffin, you might...
You can do a podcast on yourself, couldn't you?
So Josh Griffin has a really nasty injury. Everybody sees it. Everyone hears about it. There's lots of varied opinions about it. He goes back to his club. He gets scanned. He gets operated on. Saturday morning, Faye does, a mere few hours earlier, if not even a few hours, was it? Faye does a similarly nasty injury in the fact she's snapped and fractured and blah, 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 blah. She has paid for her own MRI scan. She will now await the outcome and what the actual thing is. She will either then go back through NHS and wait for the thing, or she will have to fork out however many thousands of pounds it is to pay for her own operation. Now these are, isn't it contradictory of me to say, St Helens and Hull FC, it's a team. It doesn't matter whether it's men's or women's. But where's that fine line? In the women's game, so Danny Anderson, greatest prop in the game, your favourite player.
Second favourite
player. She was really lucky in the sense... She wasn't at all. Her operation is by one of our other girls, Addie. She's having her ACL done today. Bless her. Danny did snapped her ACL in England training. So it wasn't even club, it was England international training. She snapped her ACL. She waited 5 weeks for her MRI scan, and the only reason she got it sooner was because she kept on ringing Pinderfield asking for a last minute. And she rang one day and they was like, yeah, we've got one this afternoon. She then pestered, and if you knew Danny Anderson, she doesn't pester anybody. She's quiet, she's meek and mild, and she just does what she needs to do.
The assassin.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's only through word. I don't know the exact ins and outs of it, but then she rings up about the MRI scan and keeps pecking about because I'm like, oh, it'll be 2 to 3 weeks for your results, which is NHS protocol. She then, somebody at England gets hold of this. Some doctor speaks to some doctor, and then the next thing you know, they're speaking to a doctor from Hull for her, who's then managed to get her in sooner. And she's had her operation. Is it eight to 9 weeks after snapping her ACL? Which by 8 to 9 weeks post ACL, you're looking at, you're 2 weeks off back running, 3 weeks off back running, but she's not even had her op yet. So again, it's a focus on the women's game. But where's the fine line between the medical attention then from the men's and the women's game? We have insurance if you decide to take it out yourself. So I pay however many pounds a month for a couple of insurance policies that cover different things. But what Paul, like Faye and Danny both essentially funding / waiting for their own operations. I know that's really long-winded and boring for some of you.
No, and I think it again highlights the fact that if we're going to take it seriously and call it elite.
But Danny did hers at an England international session.
Then there needs to be the backup of the kind of support a male player would have if they'd been injured playing for their country or training for their country. And clearly clubs would not release players if they didn't have those insurances in place.
Yeah, it's just a fine line between, if you can get a scan for Josh Griffin, can you get a scan for Faye Gaskin?
Well, here's another question. Why haven't all Super League players, male and female, been vaccinated?
Do they all want to be?
Well, those who don't...
I know I shouldn't ask that question.
Perhaps it shouldn't be selected.
I know I shouldn't ask that.
But what you can't have.
I'm
sport,
not opening that up as a discussion.
You can't have sport held up as a paradigm of we need sport because it's good for the nation's morale, and then not vaccinate, which would have taken 400, 500, 600 vaccinations out of a system that could clearly cope with that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that would have prevented some of these shutdowns and people still coming into contact, but you would have thought that they would have qualified to be pushed up the priority list to take some of the risks that we've seen now come to fruition out.
Mm. So we've had obviously Saints and Wigan women cancelled this weekend because of COVID. 2 weeks ago we had an isolation of our own because we had some cases, but we didn't have a game for a couple of weeks, so we were very lucky in the sense that it didn't affect our... But one of our players who had COVID had both of her vaccinations. So she has got immune deficiencies, etc. So the vaccination probably hasn't stopped. From guessing, it's probably stopped a lot of the symptoms being a lot worse than they would have been. But that's the same thing, isn't it? You can. But again,
the thing about that is clubs could pay for their players to be vaccinated. You don't have to wait until it's your turn. And it's again going back to the whole debate we had about academies. What does it mean to be elite? Mm-hmm. What resource do you need? But what sort of things do you need to put in place to protect the competition? And I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
We've got all our priorities right at the moment.
But there's so many priorities that we have to be realistic as well. Particularly for the women's game, there needs to be, a list of...
Yeah, but you say 300,000 people watched that final.
Apparently, yeah.
Which wasn't on at the most convenient time.
It wasn't massively promoted outside of...
That's a phenomenon. When you think, if that 300,000 is bigger than any men's game on Sky, apart from Grand Final.
I tell you what, Phil. Andy says, "Are you over, Phil? Are you over 50 for your vaccination?"
Me?
Yeah.
This guy hit the big one.
Very, very kind of you. Yeah, approaching 50. Yeah.
I've had both mine now. Fully AstraZeneca. Trying to put a magnet on me because I saw if you have the thing, you're magnetic. Didn't work. But as I tweeted a year ago, right, Rugby League came back, got some money from the government, and Rugby League is dependent on people coming through the turnstiles, and Rugby League clubs employ people who went out on social media and said don't wear masks. So can't have it all ways, can you? And I'm not saying wear a mask or don't wear a mask, that's up to you, but done if your job depends on it. I've been told in the past, go back to social media, things I can and can't say in my job. Because it'd be foolish, and it'd be foolish for me then to ignore what I've been told I can't say, and then do it, and then I've suddenly not got a job anymore. How'd that work? So I don't do that anymore. I've just got a job, which is good. By the way, talking about those Super League games being on at the same time as the internationals, Greyhound Derby last week, they put the heats on at the same time. They've got like some nonsense, other races. It's not a complete mess. It's not just Rugby League.
No, it's just what we want the internet. I mean, I just feel desperately. You can't feel sorry for Sean Wayne because Sean Wayne wouldn't want you to feel sorry for him. But I just feel that it's almost like he's trying to do the England job with one hand tied behind his back. And if we want to promote this sport for the World Cup, and the World Cup's going to be a potential saviour for the sport, which let's be honest, it needs at the moment, then you need to do everything you can to put that England brand front and centre, men's and women's, in the build-up to what it's going to be later. You don't put it on and go, well, by the way, we'll just dilute it ourselves by some of the players that we might have wanted to pick are going to have to choose between club and country, and some of the fans are going to have to choose between. Like, either do it, and do it properly, and make a big deal out of it. And I mean, in what other sport would England be playing? Can you imagine England football playing and 3 Premier League games going on at the same time? It just would not happen.
Yeah, it's just, to me...
England, well, no, rugby union does, doesn't it?
To me, it doesn't really matter about, they've got bigger squads, haven't they?
Well, that's the thing in cricket as well, but they are very much the feeders into their thing, aren't
but
they?
the thing that it's just the depletion for the team, isn't it? Surely. Nobody wants to play. So if you, again, women's side, blah, 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 blah. St Helens have got an international this weekend. England have got an international for the women. St Helens are fielding 7 to 10 players for that international. They don't want to play 2 days later. No. I mean, to be fair, in the women's game, half and would, because with that diet, I wouldn't anymore. But the
other thing is who they're playing, because they're playing a team that's also being taken out of those clubs. So the clubs should not be playing.
It's Darryl Powell's press conference tomorrow. If you're watching this on Monday. And I'm not working tomorrow afternoon, so I might pop along to it because it's on Zoom. So I don't have to go far, just a bedroom, plug my microphone in. And I might go along and ask him if I'm allowed, because Cass might not like me anymore. Your squad's razor thin, whatever it is. You weren't happy last week, you got your subs taken off you. You might have players in both squads, the England squad and the combined Nations All-Star Superstar. What are you going to do? What are you going to do, Darryl? How are you going to cope? But ask it in a more professional way than that, because I don't really know him that well.
So talking of the men's game,
which we haven't done for an hour and a half, so we'll talk about the results.
Sorry, who's going to get relegated, Lee or Salford? Just
sorry,
toss in that grenade.
Derek Carter, if you want to.
Lee.
Derek Bowman's on his programme notes. What does that Danika Priim know about Rugby League? She is a girl.
What you'd say?
The thing is, I don't know much about it. I catch and run and I watch a little bit, that's all.
What you'd say?
I'm not sure she's got a twin yet either.
About the
in the NRL?
No, in the Leeds team.
Amy.
Oh, Zoe.
Oh, Zoe.
Yeah.
Does she look up to you?
She's a bit shorter than me, so yeah.
Generally, even though you weren't playing against Wakefield, I looked at him and I thought,
I'm not sure I'll take that as a very good compliment.
I'm not even getting it.
My eyes, though.
The results from this week, which again we don't need to go through everything. The performances. Lee looked like a team that are spirited, and that although they haven't yet won a game, are competitive for parts of games, and even came back against Catalan. And some good reviews coming out of Ben Kavanagh and the impact that he's made. Salford looked like a team that are on a downward slope, got a lot of injuries, accept that, but seem to fade out of games too easily. If they were to play each other this week and it was £1 million game, because we're boiling up to the 2 games between them perhaps being £500,000 games, who would you want to be on? Because I think it's switched this week, maybe from Lee being the most vulnerable to perhaps it being
Okay, so if
Salford.
you say it like that, my view may change. But then, if we're going on percentage wins and things being potentially cancelled, as a maths teacher, I would look at results and scores, and they would just do it specifically on a statistical thing. But if you're going to do it on the teams actually physically playing each other next week, this Friday, whenever you want to be, my view would be slightly skewed. So I would then say it would be Salford to go.
Where's it being played?
Well, they've got to play each other, haven't they? Home and away. So I think the thing is, you looked at how well, Hull KR played, but Salford's resistance was worrying. You looked at Salford the week before against Warrington, and after the period at the beginning where it looked like they were competitive, once they'd gone, they'd really got... It's like you're looking at a boxer that is being absolutely pummeled on the ropes. Leigh, we knew were competitive for 40 minutes, but just listening to the Catalan game on Saturday, they were blitzed at the start of the second half, and it would have been easy to be another, we were competitive for 40 minutes and we ended up losing by 38 points to 18. But they were the ones with the wet sail at the end, which is actually, if you're a Leigh fan, quite encouraging.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It seems to be developing into a 2-horse race. Might be too early to say that because I know that we're only a third of the way through the season. But as you say, we're probably going to lose some more games. And
but Wakefield are going to beat Cass on Wednesday, and we're going to go above them in the table. So
I just think looking at Wakefield have clearly got something. I would worry at the moment. If I was Salford, that's all I'm saying.
See, that's a big game on Friday, isn't it? Huddersfield-Salford, because again, Huddersfield can pull themselves away. It's the Ian Watson derby thing.
But again, I think you look at Huddersfield
if
and
it goes ahead,
you could see progression to the point where they then believed a little bit too much in their own publicity and lost the game. But Ian Watson's the kind of guy that goes,
Huddersfield will be out of isolation by then.
We know it's working.
But that's what I just said.
We don't know how many cases they have.
Hang on, let me see if I've had any emails from the RFL. You are not allowed to come to an honest. No.
This is embargoed, and I'm just going to tell Forty20.
I've never broken any embargoes. I'm not the Times.
Oh, boring.
There's one for the who remembers that Man of Steel debacle. What else happened at the weekend? There wasn't that much, was there? Because there were only 4 games in Super League. I think we've mentioned them all now. Yeah, because I said earlier, it's Chester out now.
Well, what about Warrington? I mean, Gareth Widdop called into the England squad. His coach says playing best rugby of his career, rumoured to be on the radar of Canberra to replace George Williams, who's rumoured to be replacing him at Warrington.
And Blake Austin's off to Leeds.
Well, only if he's free. Apparently, if Warrington pay for everything for the remainder of this year...
excellent.
Because he's already in their salary cap, then he becomes effectively a free player, and
a bit of a Chris Madlinski.
Reliably informed that a club in West Yorkshire might be interested on that basis.
Wakefield, brilliant. How's he going to get past Mason Leno? He can't get in the team.
But yeah, Joe Westerman. So it's 7 years since his last England call-up. Back in the squad. 32 years of age, the opposite to the Jason Gary.
And he's got a very... Does this count as an international? Does this count as a test?
So are they bringing over...
I don't think there'll be caps.
Well, this is it.
Because they're not all coming over, are they?
That's what I'm saying. If you're not coming over, and if this is a World Cup warm-up, you'd want to... I don't know if it's because of the good old COVID. I've not mentioned it a couple of times tonight. The COVID.
The vid.
The Rona. You want to put a squad out that's going to compete. So you'd want Elliot Whitehead, and you'd want... But obviously they're not, so...
But
what about
Sean Wayne? But Sean Wayne's going to also have the pressure of Daryl Powell's on the phone, Christian Wolf's on the phone. I haven't got your number, Chris Chester. We'll put Joe Weston in. Because Wakefield, no one gives a toss about Wakefield. They're crap. So Joe Weston, well, I do, but as well.
All right, so
but Joe Weston, he can have a game because Wakefield are...
The only player we know who is playing for
he deserves a captain.
The All-Stars is the man they've named as captain.
England's Jackson Hastings.
England's own. So we're already from talking about England versus England.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Does that work? Is that a saleable concept? Or what happens if Jackson Hastings has a man of the match performance, outplays...
He could be the new Rangy Chase.
Does Sean Wayne then have to pick him?
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? Because Sean he came, into position and made it very clear that he wanted born and bred and everything else. He said that himself, which meant you knew straight away that Jackson was out on his butt, as with Blake was. But has he been made captain as a bit of a Does it make it more
Well, to
interesting?
kind of sell the game.
Is it a media ploy? Is it? But then if he's eligible to play for England in a World Cup,
and he's playing quite well at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. But then he goes out a week on Friday and absolutely nails it. I think, regardless of what your thoughts and opinions are, if he's eligible to play for your squad and he is playing out of his skin, you'd be stupid not to take him on board, wouldn't you? But that is that an ego thing? Does that boil down to because he's made this big statement as he's come into position that he wants X, Y, and Z? He's not picked him. He's got these halves.
I'm going to clickbait this, so we'll title this video "Former," because you've admitted it. Former England international says Sean Wayne is stupid.
Oh, I didn't quite say that, did I?
Don't matter. Clickbait. Don't matter.
I wouldn't say stupid. I'd say
He's in denial.
Unwise.
I'd say he is very patriotic.
No. Overly patriotic.
Overly patriotic. And he's going to have some tough decisions to
He's
make.
going to have some tough decisions to make.
Oh, to be a coach with options.
Which he's got, which is good.
Yeah, which is what you want, isn't it?
Yeah. But no, there won't be any caps or for this because it's an England World Cup trial. But you see, that's another reason why you're Darryl Powell and you get a phone call saying we need Jesse Senilafeo to play in a game that has no benefit for Jesse Senilafeo.
His leg's fallen off. Bye.
Yeah.
You're not going to be, you know.
That's what I said to Francis Cummins last week, wasn't it? If you've got Wembley coming up, you're a player. I know he said he wants to play all the time. But if you're the coach of Francis Cummins and you're saying, we've got Wembley coming up, I know England want you to play in this game against the famous people, but, you know, Wembley's coming up.
Yeah, but that's it.
Straight,
so Jesse Senilafeo gets a call up, he plays, snaps his ankle. Touch wood, that doesn't happen. You never want it to happen. That's a significant person out of the squad. So, and in rugby league, you never play to think about injury, you never play with the what if, because you have to...
Of course.
If you did, we'd all be out. But then that is a serious consideration when you have, in the, you know, what you ever said, third of the way through the season, and there's how would I say unnecessary? It's not unnecessary.
But there's an even more serious consideration because of the schedule you've got.
Yeah.
You're looking at a Castleford team that've got a huge amount of games to play and a Wembley final to concentrate on, and a huge amount of games to play after that Wembley final.
Yeah, where's your focus?
Why would you really? Even if that player can't play in one league game because if he can't play for the All-Stars, he can't play that weekend. You would say, I'd rather have him under my control than let him play in what you would hope would be a very high-intensity game and possibly get injured for absolutely no good reason for us or him.
But that's the thing, it's a high-intensity game, which is what you want to play, which is what... And you don't get to see the mix of players. You know, so for Sean, he needs to see how his players are going to play together. And it's going to be a high intensity game. Like, I can't say the same necessarily for the England women. I'd like to think that Wales will come out, but I don't know how beneficial it will be for England women apart from having a team run with opposition. Yeah. But for the England men, there will be some genuine competition there. So it's seeing that squad in the best possible position before a World Cup without being able to fly and do anything. So you want to have anybody that's available to play it just so you can see how...
If we'd have been sensible, it's easy to say, sat here in number 1 Ivory Tower, Fantasy Island, we would have cleared this weekend of all of the fixtures. So the Super League would have gone down by 1 round, and we would have taken this England team to play away in France. So the French Elite 1 final would have been, say, on Saturday, and England would have played a test match in France with the Arthur Morgs and the Toulouse players all available, flown in on the day of the game like teams are doing. Sean Wayne would have not only got an opposition that is improving, and it would have helped. And I know they're playing in the World Cup, so yeah, all right, it's not ideal, but it's far enough away to say...
Well, what if you play Huddersfield every pre-season?
Yeah. You get the camp mentality because he has them for a few days before. They get on a plane together, they land together.
Do you know 2016 we flew out in the morning and played that day and then flew back as an England double header?
Playing away in France is a test. It always has been. Even when they've been pants coming over here and getting beaten by 80 at home, and they would have got a really good crowd if they'd have played that with 5,000 people allowed in at the Gilbert Brutus. Would have been slightly an intimidating atmosphere. What a great weekend for Rugby League that would have been. And now we've got the worst diluted option of both.
The ridiculous thing with the Women's International is there will be the criticism afterwards, because we all know what's going to happen. Because
we anticipate, assume.
Yeah.
But it's good for Wales, because they're getting their
It's only going to be their second
Welsh
game.
girls are made up of some ex-union players.
It's only going to be their second game, so I'm not saying they're no good or anything, but everyone expects England, who've been training through lockdown, who have the best players in the competition, should win very comfortably. And I'll put it that way. But, well, let's hope they don't. Let's hope it's a real good game. But what gets me is, and I read this on social media during the Cup final, we should not bother because the Australians and the New Zealanders are so much better than us. Which is a ridiculous thing to say, because the men are anyway, so we may as well just give up. England women probably won't win the World Cup.
Well, it depends. I mean, COVID is not going to go away. It depends
Australia
who.
and New Zealand signed to say they're coming.
I think they have, but what they may have is some of their players. I think all the players will be given the option, because each individual. In the New Zealand Rugby League has said they are going to go to all of their players and say, "We know it's a World Cup. We'd love you to play, but the option is entirely yours, with quarantine, with family commitments, with the fact that you're going to a country that clearly has probably a rate of infection that is higher than you've got. If you didn't want to go, that would not be held against you." So I think they'll come, but they may not come with all of the players that they would like to come with.
Yeah. But for the women's team, it's slightly different, because I know that the Australian women's team are the ones under contract. But if it was the other way around and we were flying to Australia, I don't have the financial capabilities to isolate for 10 days, then fly out, do my 3-4 weeks, come back and then isolate for 10 days. I pushed it enough when I went out to the World Cup in 17, and that was without isolation, and that was with landing on the Sunday and playing on the Thursday. So for the women's side, and the same for the men, it's the end of season, and therefore, I mean, Australia, New Zealand, you're looking at win bonuses or whatever, so potentially they're going to get the money anyway. But it's a lot to ask, isn't it? Either side of your... Because if you have to isolate for 10 days, does that mean that Australia... Can they isolate together and therefore carry on training? How does the isolation work?
But it also means when you get back, you don't see your family for an extra 10 days. So you've got 3 weeks where you're away, which becomes a month. So, you're sacrificing the hell out of it.
But can teams isolate together for 10 days prior to flying? So they could train... Or does it have to be...
Again, I don't think anybody knows at the moment.
Yeah.
That's
so there's lots of like grey areas, isn't there, about whether the men's and the women's could...
And the women needed an opponent because, as you've said right at the beginning, you can't just train.
Yeah.
You need to play. Well, which other opponents are there in the Northern Hemisphere at the moment?
France.
But at what level?
But can we travel in and out of France anyway? Or
but it's the same as the men, isn't it? It's a competitive...
You may as well play Wales and give them the leg up, because they do. I mean, I think there were...
I'm all for Wales playing anyway, so it doesn't matter to me.
I think there were a couple of matches played in Wales this weekend.
Yeah.
It's the first time Welsh women's teams have played, so it'll give a real boost. I mean, what you don't want is it's such a blowout that people in Wales start going, well, let's not play Wales.
But Wales have to start somewhere, don't they?
But they have to, yeah. So I think the imperative for them to play Wales here, and whoever might be on commentary or summarising for that game, whoever that could be, would need to make the case that you might be watching something here that looks very one-sided, but actually there's real benefit for both parts. I'm sure whoever was the summariser would make that
that was the important thing about the Cup final, was you and Andrea pointing out they all got proper jobs, they're all students, they're not full-time professionals.
Whereas I think the men's is different, and that if they had gone to France, that is a genuine test match. The caps are awarded, players would feel more comfortable, their club's about releasing their players for something worthwhile. They're playing an opposition to get a bit of a look at who they might be playing in a World Cup. Some of the new French players that talked about Arthur Morgue, you'd be suddenly, you're on your tip sheet, you're going, don't let him run from dummy half, he's quite good. And I just think it would have been a real boost for the international game. What we've got coming up is the most horrible mix and match.
Rugby League, unbeaten. Championship, quickly. Dewsbury 12, Toulouse 56. So they're still flying high. Featherstone 44, Bradford 0. Obviously, if that try had been given, the one with the forward pass, that would have been different. That one, Featherstone win the Peter Fox Trophy. Halifax beat York 30 points to 6. I think York thought it was a 3 o'clock kickoff. That's why they lost that one at 11:30 in the morning.
I think we said this last week as well. York getting to Wembley is massive for York.
Yeah.
And whilst I'm sure Wembley is a long way away and they're not thinking about it, that their season rests on that 80 minutes on that pitch, and the things you can do marketing wise on the back of playing in a game like that. With the greatest respect, I don't think York were ever in a position to get promoted this year, but getting to Wembley is huge.
8 different try scores for Fev.
That's a good result.
Is it?
I don't know what happened to Bradford. Maybe they were celebrating an OBE before.
We've not talked about that, have we?
Not a lot to say, really, other than we love Kev.
Yeah. As some wags point out, Bradford not used to playing on a pitch that's not wide. Sheffield, back to winning ways, beat Oldham 32-8.
Sounded like a 32-20. It sounded like a cracking
28,
game.
sorry, yeah.
Cracking game.
Newcastle beat Swinton 36-30 at the bottom.
Although that was closer than it looked at one stage. Were Newcastle 30 up at one point?
30-18 at half time.
And big fight back from Swinton, but not quite enough. Mr. Kellner's still crying as the bottom of the table.
The Bulldogs won away at Whitehaven 24-20.
Another great result for the under-the-radar Bulldogs.
London Broncos winning at Widnes. London should give all the credit to Wakefield here, obviously. Roman Navarrete and Titus Guaze with the late tries to win that game. So, go up the Wakefield. It's good for London. Our southern outpost. Toulouse and Fev still unbeaten, top of the table. Featherstone have played a game more, so they're below Toulouse. As mentioned earlier, Barrow topping League One, 6 from 6, beating Rochdale 14-4. Not happening for Rochdale at the moment. Coventry Workers only entertaining game. Workington winning 30 points to 12. Keighley 70, West Wales 12. That one looked close for a time, but that was very early in that one. London Scholars 10, Hunslet 62. Big win for Hunslet, and big win for Doncaster as well, 68-0 at the North Wales Crusaders.
3 games from the Championship on our league, all at the same time.
Excellent, on Sunday.
Wow.
Father and son playing for Keighley.
Yes, setting each other up for a try. Nice.
I'm not sure that's as exciting a news story as people think it is, really, but it's just...
It's nice, though, isn't it?
It's nice.
Nice.
Celtic Cup wheelchair this weekend.
Yeah, well done, Wales.
Father and son played for Wales.
There you go. Well done, Wales. I don't think there's any other news apart from Fev signing everyone on loan from Super League. Scully's said some stuff. Awards, yeah. Sir Kevin
Should we
Sinfield
finish
OBE.
on the note of the awards?
The positivity, yeah. Sir Kevin Sinfield OBE. That's it.
For his charitable work.
Yeah.
Stephen Ball for his charitable work.
Yes.
Lovely. Martin Blundell for his charitable work. Nice.
Yeah.
Lovely.
You know, the people who got upset about the other one on social media, if they're not bothered about it, find out who nominated him. Because they must have written a bloody good essay. All these people don't set up petitions. They're pointless. We're going to set up a petition to give an award to such and such. That's not how it works.
Tell us how you feel about that one, eh?
Well, I've been told I don't watch the show enough to people, but I've left it a bit late now to say don't watch the show anymore. But do you like the New England kit?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Do you reckon you'd be able to get a free one from someone? You must know some people in the squad.
I don't know if I want one.
You know. Oh, you're not like... You're not
either
gonna
wear it
yeah,
or...
yeah.
Either playing it or...
It's obviously like for me and Phil.
Oh, yeah. Like, I'm not a shirt person.
No.
I'm not a replica
Oh, you just want
shirt
all the other stuff.
So
like
if we had a
polo
Sydney Roosters shirt here, you wouldn't be interested?
If it was worn, and it was a one that was worn by a player, yes, I would. If it was just... I would have it because it's nice. I wouldn't go out my way to buy an England shirt or a shirt. No. Again, I've got a few shirts in a box that I've played in, neatly folded in a box, but they're in a box. I haven't done that whole
You don't want to get them framed as some kind of shrine to your illustrious career.
I don't have a particularly a house where I just want to put, hey, this is...
Look how great I am.
Yeah, I really struggle with that. I talk a lot of rubbish, and I will never deny the fact I've played for England and stuff like that. But I'm a bit weird about it. So for Christmas, my friend, she framed my cap, which was really lovely. But I'm like, put it on my bedside table. Like, what do you do?
Hang it in the smallest room.
Whereas I have had a picture from when I had a coffee on the balcony every morning in Sydney, and I looked out onto the ANZ Stadium, and the view was lovely. I've had that picture made into a canvas. So for me, that picture's lovely when people say, oh, it's a really nice picture.
Yeah.
But I know exactly where I was, why I was there, and how I was there. So, I should, just because maybe one day if I ever do have children, it's a nice thing to hand down. But no, I don't. I do like the new shirt. And I just got to point out that, in the Merrion Centre, in the Leeds Rhino shop, they are selling the England shirts. But what they've done is the backdrop, they've put an England men's, a women's and a wheelchair player, which I think is fantastic. Emily Rudge is there, as big as anything, on the wall, which I just think is great. And I think the way that England are marketing all three games equally is brilliant. So I'm really proud of that.
And what we should say is there's a wheelchair international.
Yes, there is.
The day
England
after.
wheelchair playing Wales in Sheffield.
EIS.
Look, and that's on the BBC Red Button as well, which is massive for the wheelchair game, and we're looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we're done. 5 to 8. I don't think there's anything else we need to mention. So,
No,
I'm not slagging
no
off.
questions that we need answering from our
I don't think
illustrious...
so.
No, they've all switched off because I'm...
Everyone's watching Boris. Or whatever. Do you like the word... Are you bothered by being like the player of the match? If you'll call the man of the match?
I still call him man of the match.
Yeah. The woke. Are you one of the woke brigade that David Taylor of Kendal is against? Oh no, was that? It was Tony Cunningham of Bury who's against the woke brigade. So.
Should we now start thinking about naming the player of the match award after somebody like Andy Dobson?
In the cup final.
Yeah, 100%. For a Lance Todd-esque. Yeah.
As opposed to a commentator or a journalist.
There's not a cost involved in that. That's
no, it's just a nice...
Should we not be doing something like that? You've named 3 people, I think, who you
but it's funny, isn't it,
think are
because
pioneers. Should one of those...
Yeah, but it isn't funny because all 3 of those players, if they are able to say, we'd like to say this after you, they'd probably go, shut up.
Yeah, but... all the more reason
they will force them to have it named after them.
No.
Recognise their contribution.
Yeah.
So you can have one in the cup final, one in the grand final.
Mm-hmm.
That's the start of...
Do you reckon that we should also start getting the Woman of Steel points as well?
Well, who's going to dish them out?
That's what I mean,
Well, the Dally M's used to be awarded by the referees.
There you go.
So there is always somebody who is neutral. Who do you think stood out?
You can't have that neutral. You can ask me if I was at a game because I'm biased.
We asked the members of the press who was here.
Yeah.
Him.
Yeah, but I won't be able to go to the games when they're rearranged because I said I can work these.
Surely there'd be a legend at each woman's game.
Oh,
mind you, better not go there.
Club media people can give them out.
But no, yes, we should have a
who's leading the
definable way of
women's.
And who decides anyway?
Well, previously we've just done a 3 vote, 1, 2, 3 vote for the players.
And vote for your mates, yeah. No.
Oh no.
Like the men did that time.
Yeah, I was so tempted to do that. Then I found out that they were.
Did they publish
them? They publicised them to each team, and I was like,
you don't want to be like David.
I do though. I do.
The Coal Train. That was great.
Listen, the girls that are genuinely good and deserved it would get enough votes genuinely. So 1 or 2 people like me would just be there for comedy value.
Just ruin it.
But the only comedy value would be to myself.
Yeah,
it for everyone.
You would. There's somebody who's always got to upset the apple cart.
I voted Rudge in the last one, and she got nominated for it. So
she's really good, isn't she?
She's nice. She's just a nice person too.
She was brilliant in the semi-final.
Yeah, she's great.
Did you pick up an injury in that semi-final?
My ego got bruised, got damaged. I had just come out of a 10-day isolation the morning of that semi-final.
Which you can read about in the news.
Yeah, I should never have played, but I offered myself up for it.
Because when I shouted to you, "Are you knackered?" I didn't mean like, "Are you tired?" I thought, "Have you done an injury to yourself?" That was the that was all the post match. That was the post match injury. I
jarred my thumb, and my nail was hanging off halfway through. But I jarred my thumb. That was about it. But mostly just my ego.
There you go.
You'll be back bigger and stronger.
I'm definitely bigger.
Well, that we all after lockdown.
I've been told
It
I
hasn't
am.
finished yet.
I've been told I am. But you know what? There's a lot of money and effort in this body. It's taken a lot of investment. I tell you that for sure.
And on that bombshell.
It's always a pleasure, Danika. The very best of luck for the future.
You'll be in again soon.
In again soon.
Yeah.
Enjoy your role on our major broadcaster with the Women's International.
I know.
Should you be involved?
They ring me and ask.
I don't like to ask you in now. You're a major international TV celebrity because we don't pay. So you know.
Listen, I've told you. I know I've started. You know what I mean?
Everyone remembers their community club. Yeah, we'll donate one of your shirts. We'll auction it off with a meat raffle.
I've got 7 of them.
I think I upset Doisy the other week and I said to him, "Yeah, we'll invite you back because you're only around the corner."
No, I've got.
But that was true.
Well, thanks.
When are Leeds playing again?
Sunday.
Are you?
Bradford on Sunday
Oh.
at the Mobile Rocket Stadium.
You know, that's right, because the fixtures on the website either, but they don't have any venues on there because I didn't know, because I'm actually working on something.
Poignant game for you.
Yeah.
I would have gone, but I'm working on Sunday now. And
So this one is an interesting weekend. So we've got Wigan Cass.
Yeah, because all the fixtures are the crossover ones. Yeah.
Warrington Wakefield.
Yeah.
Bradford Leeds. York St Helens. Oh, at the Mobile Rocket. Oi oi. Then on the Monday night we've got these ones coming in. Featherstone and Huddersfield at Odsall Stadium. And on that note, you're deathly silent.
I have no
Well,
idea.
no, because I'm just confused. But no, I would have been there on Sunday, but unfortunately, I've got to work now because that pays and.
The women's game does end.
Like you,
yes,
like you.
Tell me about it.
Like you, I don't get paid for this rubbish. But thank you very much for watching. I mean, all the people on YouTube, Michael, thanks for watching. Say goodbye to you.
Bye.
And stream. Radio, it works and everything. That was good. And Facebook.
So our Facebook.
Carson's will Shane Warne pick Jake Connor? I don't think Shane Warne's got the England job, Andy, but
No.
Not yet. Not with that hair.
I don't think Jake Connor's his type of player.
No, he prefers Bliss Hurley. See you later.
Bye bye now.
Oh, and for podcast fans, yeah, that's your lot.